Good morning and welcome back to the Mind World podcast, or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world and listening to us. Thank you for listening to us. So welcome back. And today is an interesting day because we'll be talking about communication. But just before we jump in, my name is MP Strydom. I'm the host of the Mind World podcast. And this is the podcast where we talk about all things new and promising innovation-wise and technology-wise that shapes our world, and of course, specifically the mining and natural resources industries. Let me also quickly take time to thank MineRP, the primary sponsor of the MineRP podcast. MineRP is a global software company specializing in delivering value through digitally connecting mining enterprises. You can check out MineRP's website on www.minerp.com. So talking about stuff, communication is the backbone, not only of society, but certainly it's also the backbone that holds together modern businesses. And our guest today is Chris Potgieter, an industrial communications specialist. He's also managing director at Asbesticum Industrial and Commercial Communications. Welcome to the Mind World podcast, Christian.
Thank you, MP. Thank you for the opportunity to have a say in this interesting forum. I think it's a very interesting platform to expand what is going on out there. You usually just think about the normal companies doing business in the mining industry, but there's actually quite a lot of other opportunities coming out for other businesses to participate in this whole economy.
That's right. I guess the service economy that surrounds mining in general is incredibly big. And in South Africa specifically, as a mining country, you can hardly speak to anyone without them having some kind of link to a mine somewhere, I guess. I remember I grew up thinking to myself that I would never, ever have anything to do with mining. And lo and behold, that didn't work out well.
Yes, it is. It is very interesting to see that smaller towns in our country are totally dependent on mining economies, and that ranges from the pharmacy right through to the doctor and the schools, and everybody is dependent on that mine, and everybody is providing services and product to that mine. Whatever you're from a panel beat or whatever. So yeah, they definitely play a hell of a role in our country's economy and create jobs not only for people working in mines, but for guys like you and me, I'm a trained lawyer, and never did I also think that I'm going to work in the mining industry, but here I am, not doing anything legal at the moment, and you as well in the IT business. So yeah, what a great industry to work in, a lot of opportunities.
That brings me to the first question I wanted to ask of you, and that is, as you say, you are a trained lawyer, or whatever you call that, a legal person of background. So how on earth did you end up with a communications business?
That is a long story. It's almost a 20-year story now. I'm a trained lawyer, and I practiced, and I did all the legal stuff and worked for corporates. And then one day I realized that I'm actually an entrepreneur, and I wouldn't do my own thing. But in the legal industry, you're confined to working in courts and rules and those type of things. And we started thinking of what we can do as a business, and we started very early with just when digital communication came out with screens in malls and those type of things. And we tried our luck at a few businesses, and it worked, but not as well as we wanted to. And as the story goes, I linked up with an old school friend of mine, and he was a trained trader on the JSE, and we decided, but let's see what we can do for the mines. And in the same year, we had a request from a Lonmin Platinum mine in those days, 2008. In those days at the Marikana mine, they had a big problem in getting information to their workers because they had a notice board with little papers flapping around, and they had to replace those things. And they said, yes, can you assist us with a digital solution? Now, we knew nothing about digital solutions then. We barely, I think in those days, we had a plasma screen still. But as entrepreneurs, we made up a story and we put something together, a proposal. We didn't have a demo or anything, and we sold the proposal to them. And they gave us the opportunity to start putting electronic messages at their mine. And we had a product, a very basic product, and it started out. And yes, that's where it all began. And 14 years later, now we are over 1,000 industrial screens, and we're servicing 12 mine groups. Yeah, so that's where it began, all with a need that wasn't there. And I think looking back, we had the guts, but maybe we were stupid as well. But we had the guts to start something that wasn't there, and especially in an African mining environment where they still have a very old school way of thinking in the mining. So we had to turn everybody around and say, but there is a way to do it more efficient and in a digital format. And yeah, we started in 2008 with the whole thing. And it was a tough road, not just selling the product in there, but to get everybody persuaded that there is a better way than going on paper every day.
If you talk about communications and that you facilitate communications for industrial companies such as mines, what kinds of communications are you looking at here? I mean, what's the real business need, I guess, that you're addressing?
It started off in 2008 when there was quite a lot of mining accidents in South Africa, and they had a big problem with health and safety. And then the government was on the backs of the mine bosses and telling them that they're creating unsafe areas for the people to work in. So the communication flowing to the workers was basically, well, initially health and safety driven, and they had a lot of health and safety campaigns and posters and things that they had to apply against walls all over the place. So that's where it started, by bringing in a television screen that can operate in a working environment where they actually work underground, and placing health and safety information on that screen, right and wrong ways, who's the safety officer for that shift, and all those type of things. And so it evolved later on from health and safety to HR later, and then to operational issues. And through the last 14 years, it expanded there, where we are now receiving about 100 instructions a day, servicing the mines with payslip information, with video addresses from management, and then very specifically operational data coming from service providers, where we can show a certain shift, what the earlier shift did on certain production figures, and how the safety stats are looking like for a certain shift. And these are all data and information which they are dependent on for doing their work. And then very excitingly, the last few years, I think the last 4 or 5 years, we changed the whole thing to a touchscreen, where a person can retrieve information which is critically necessary for him doing his job from certain databases where it lies. It started very small, very simple, with basic communication flowing in a singular direction, but now these days it's quite tempting.
So clearly you've moved from, let's call it, an electronic version of a poster into something that is business critical for everyone, both management who want to be able to see, I guess, production details, as you said, but also to the actual worker underground that feels that they get useful information.
Yes,
it's not only nice pictures.
No, for sure. That's like I said, obviously it's a visual medium, so the picture needs to be visually attractive to get the reader focusing on the screen. But we realized that there's a lot of data and a lot of information in an operation where there's a large workforce, and then obviously mining with health and safety. But the people getting the information was always the people who had access to the information with laptops and tablets and those type of things. Yeah. But the poor worker who's working underground and need information about his payslip or bonuses and health and safety issues, and even social information going through, they never had access to information. And that's the need that we addressed in the beginning, by taking a medium underground where the guy is waiting for 3 hours for a cage to come down sometimes, and use that opportunity to communicate operational and critical social information to this person for him to read in a language that he can understand, in a medium which he can see, and using people addressing staff which is familiar with them. So it's not the CEO speaking to them, it's the shift boss that's speaking to him. And that has proven a model which is working very well with our clients.
So when you do this as a service provider, of course, you provide, I understand, the infrastructure, the communications infrastructure, with regards to the, let's call it the digital solutions, the software, etc., that package and distribute messages, determines how long it should stay on screens, determines who should see it, etc. But how do you engage with companies to keep the information fresh? Who's the typical person at the mine that speaks with Asbestica, which is the name of your company?
Yes, again, when we started off in the South African mining industry, it was a hell of a task getting people to submit communication instructions to us, because they soon realized that their communication strategies wasn't working. Basically, what we did is we created a new kind of service with the mines to appoint communication officers, not just to print posters and relay messages from the management to the workers, but actually to do something positive, to send us an instruction with something to say. And we created the need around that by appointing a lot of graphic designers who can take that information and make it a visual attractive movie or with some animation types of thing, and place it on screens which people can relate to. So the typical client that we have is the communication department of every large organization. They send us raw information through on a daily basis. Like I say, we receive about 100 a day, which we then take and put graphic design and animation onto it, and then it goes to a publishing department with that instruction to publish the information to a certain screen at a certain mine, and then very importantly, removing at a certain time. Because that's the problem with the old notice board systems, where these little papers are fluttering down and it's still Valentine's messages from 3 months old, which isn't working. I'm speaking now in simple terms, but it goes farther than that. Important thing like a safety stat or a production stat can never be old. It needs to be current, and it needs to, otherwise it carries no water. So that is our typical client, and management from most of our clients, they bought into this whole thing, where they now on a weekly basis do a video address with the communication officer of that mine, and addressing his workforce via video, which he can play underground at a certain shift. And again, it works like a charm. It's something that wasn't there before, which we had to create, and it took some time, but for the last 7 years, I think it is now becoming the norm with most of our clients. And they're spending, well, they're renewing our contracts every 2 years now for the last 10 years. So they certainly see value in the service.
Sure.
This is not me selling my business. It's me talking about a need that wasn't there before, which we were pioneers in creating, and now the need is there. So this is a subject that needs to be developed going forward.
Is the messages that and information that is communicated typically all done in pre-packaged format, or do you also facilitate live messages?
We do the live messages, but, and we'll get to that later on, some of the challenges that we have in the business is the network infrastructure at South African mines. It is
not only South African mines, all over the world.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that, but because
I'm sad to hear that.
It is a material challenge that we have with the clients that we work with in South Africa. That we tried the live streaming, and it works well, but it is dependent on bandwidth. So we have to cancel a few other operations at the mine when the CEO wants to address the 20,000 workers live. And then obviously the mining operators don't like that, because then to start those processes again, it may cause a problem. So that is a material challenge that we have in our business, and it's not a risk that we can control most of the time. Of course, it's in the hands of the mine. The amount of money which they are willing to spend on infrastructure and data. But I think as equipment and other measuring tools are developing, the need is there for them to step up and put some money behind the data networks. Some of our clients are heavily invested now in Wi-Fi underground, which is a good thing for us because we piggyback onto those things. But there's still a lot of work to do on the mining side to get those systems up to speed.
That's right. So, of course, as you said, currency of data is really, really important. That is how current the data is, whether it's complete, whether it is believable. And if you put bad information on your communication systems, I guess both the system as well as the employer will suffer from it. So my background, as you know, is integrating information from a variety of data sources for mines so that mines can, I guess, act as a unit. But you must have a lot of that same kind of problem, getting information from multiple sources and in multiple formats, etc. How do you deal with that?
Yes, MP, that is a very good question. We've worked very hard to put the medium in place so that communication can flow to the right person at the right time effectively, at the right place, on the ground meaning. So the platform is set, and we've proven ourselves through the years that the equipment that we use can withstand all the harsh mining environment areas where they work in. So there's nothing wrong with the hardware. And now getting the service on the screen is a total different ballgame, because as I said, we develop a dashboard where the employee can call up different information on a screen wherever he is on the mine. But now retrieving that information proves to be a challenge on our side because it's a risk that we can't control because the mine appoint various service providers providing services with data and reports and those type of things. And the one need that we've realized, especially the last year, there's no single source at a mine where we can get information from, because we go to the mine and say we have this display. Put your production figures and your HR and your leave and everything and the medicals, everything onto one screen and with a button, and we retrieve the data from wherever it lies. But getting a single source who manage that is an impossibility at the moment. We can't find a company in this country who is willing and or offering a service where you can go into a mine and like an umbrella type of basis, retrieve information from different sources at a mine and getting it onto a single platform. So at the moment we had to get our own software programmers in and try writing something that we can coordinate this whole thing. The biggest challenge is that getting the information from the different sources, they're very protective of their data. They don't want to share it. And then sometimes it's not getting to us in the right format. So we have to work with that. We can't automate certain of the data because they change it the whole time. And then again, the problem is also lying internally with the mine's network representatives, who is not giving access to some of the service providers to the correct networks the whole time. We're sitting with this fantastic product. We can get information at the right time at the right place, but retrieving the information from databases is very tough, and it takes a lot of negotiation, and especially your IT type of person working in mine is very protective of his network. He doesn't want anybody on there, so convincing them also of the bigger picture is also quite a big task.
All right, you've established the communication protocols, I should say, with the communication team at the mine, and you've managed to identify the correct data sources and set up the processes to make sure that the data can flow appropriately, etc. Then what's next? You install physical devices.
Yes.
Do you use the infrastructure, communications infrastructure, networks, etc., provided by the mine, or do you also do that?
We manufacture an IP65 standard screen, which we placed underground.
Just for those of us who are not in the game, what does that mean, an IP65?
IP65 standard screen means that it is an electronic piece of equipment that cannot start a fire from within. Dust-proof, it's waterproof, it's damp-proof, and it can basically be used in those type of areas, except for where there's in your coal mines, when there's a fire hazard. But in your gold and your platinum and those type of factories and harsh environments, it will work. So we manufactured this robust type of screen with a safety glass and everything in front, and this piece of equipment can then be used underground in those areas. And then after installation, then we get onto the mine's network. On surface level and in remote areas, we usually go for modems where there's no network availability. But first prize is always getting onto the mine's network and then accessing the screen there, pushing the data through there, and then monitoring the operation of the screen, because we're also responsible for the maintenance of the screen.
Right, so you have a service level agreement that makes sure that that device keeps on working.
Sure. Our aim is that taking away the communications from the mine, that we will manage, and that will mean that we do all the graphic work on the screen, but also ensuring that the screen is always working. So the mine will never have to ask the question, is the communication method in place? Is it working? He's paying a single fee for that, and we are making sure that the right picture is on the right screen at all times. So you can tick that box always, and so that he can depend on his communications. And then yes, getting onto the network, and again that's a hell of a challenge, because especially in the Free State and some of the old mines, we're still working on telephone cables and leaky feeders and those type of things. But luckily on the new mines, the modern mines like the Anglos and the Royal Bafokeng and those guys, they quite invested heavily in the infrastructure, and then it's easy, and it's a pleasure to work on those type of networks.
That takes care of essentially all of the infrastructure that one needs to get the message to the worker. Do you find that there's a lot of change management that needs to be done, changes in the way that people traditionally used to communicate, used to receive information? You know, it's one thing to have a safety meeting where maybe a shift supervisor stands up at the beginning of a shift and tells me the things that I should pay attention to, which is still a legal requirement. And it's another thing to actually take responsibility for reading information ourselves. I mean, corporate communications, or people working in corporate communications will tell you the biggest frustration is that no one reads their messages.
Yes, that is our single biggest enemy in the communication side of the business as well. You need to make sure that what is on the screen is actually relevant to the person who's reading it. And you need to make sure that the person who's looking or you want to reach is actually going to look at the screen. We learned very quickly from the models used in malls and the retail sector that people think there's a lot of people looking at screens, but there's actually, in most cases, not a lot of people looking at the screen. So we needed to adapt to that. And we started using familiar faces, who they know. And we started using the method where you schedule a certain presentation. So when a safety meeting has been done, the person doing the presentation can actually use the screen and demonstrate what the wrong way and an incorrect way is for and why accidents happen. And then the shock and awe type of strategy which some of the mines use, they show people on the screens what is the result of not following proper procedures, which is also quite effective. So yeah, we had to be creative in using the medium in getting the message through to the readers.
In communications, marketing communications and so on, it's almost accepted that people don't read anymore. They want to look at things. So if you look at the emergence of infographics to communicate, for example, and videos, do you find that the medium and the way that people take in information has changed over the past 14 years?
Definitely. And especially the type of reader which we have working at a mine, you need to realize that you're not addressing the management, you're addressing the unschooled or semi-schooled worker who's working down in a mine. So you need to keep it simple. You need to preferably have audio in his own language, and we've got 9 to choose from. And you need to bring in animation and make it look interesting so that you can understand the message gets through. But small print and figures and those type of things are not working for the regular person who's working at the stopes. He needs to see one figure, how many tons did he bring out in the earlier shift, and when will the mine close with a certain date. So very simple, very robust type of information, but that's the stuff that works.
Yeah, I remember many years ago, I was in a software development team, and we developed safety checklist systems that at that time worked on a PDA. This was a personal digital assistant. This was before the times of smartphones that we could give to shift supervisors. And it seemed so great because all of the information would come up from underground, immediately sync, and everyone would have it. But the thick finger syndrome was a problem,
For sure.
Small screens, the way that the people used the devices just was not conducive to actually practically getting the work done. And in the end, they just went back to the paper models. So that was an interesting challenge that we had to overcome in getting information out from underneath the mine very quickly. Now, of course, yours goes mainly the other direction. But what are some of the major challenges that you find that you run into, that you've got the bridges you've got to cross before success comes your way?
Yeah, look, challenges, like I mentioned before, will always be networks. I think apart from having an established network, it's also the maintenance of the network. We are pushing hard and we're working very hard to get the screen working the whole time. But now you're in the hands of a certain third-party company who's not maintaining the network. So now suddenly your screen is becoming almost dormant because the information on it is owned. We program it to take certain information off at certain dates, but especially on your touch screen, where they are dependent on retrieving information on that screen. Especially one of the Anglo sites is now using it for work requests, which they put in underground for certain parts. Now, that screen is now not just a communication tool anymore. It becomes part of the operations now. And he needs to raise his work request there. And now the network is off because a third-party network service supplier is not maintaining the network. So that's a big challenge always.
So the collaboration kind of ecosystem has to work really well.
Yes. The whole idea of communicating to the workforce is a team effort. We are just supplying the hardware, but there's a lot of other players that needs to participate in this thing to make the communication effective. And again, it sounds like a old cliche, but like you said, the communication is king in these type of large employer base where you have 20,000 people and you need to get your information through. it is critical, especially when there's wage negotiations and those type of things going on. Then they make, especially the mines make use of our system quite a lot in getting the correct information to the workers, so there's not lies being told of exaggerated bonuses and those type of things. Because it's then a team effort, you are totally dependent on the other players in your project, like the maintenance guys on the networks, to assist you with this.
So does that mean that you don't only communicate? Sorry for interrupting there, but
yeah, sure.
You just made me think. You don't only send information to screens. You could also send that information to smartphones and to all kinds of other communication devices.
For sure.
Or is this not something that you do? Or is this part of maybe the future vision for where this is going?
No, for sure. We took hands with the other company in Pretoria now, where because we're sitting on the final product at our offices. It needs to be distributed now to various screens. Now we have large LED screens at entrances, and there's screens in buses and all those type of places. A screen is a screen. So there's a lot of service providers entering the market now with mobile devices, and they are now having mobile apps installed onto those devices, and the same information which we are spreading to our screens, we are spreading and distributing to these devices as well. Because again, it sounds very honorable, but I already made my money when I designed the graphics and distributing to my screens. With a push of a button, I can just as well distribute to all other third-party players in the market as well. At the end of the day, the employee is getting the benefit. And if the employee is getting the benefit of the project, then all the players will get paid at the end of the day, because they all add value to the common goal, is getting information to the guy underground.
Sounds really, really interesting, and well done, by the way. I mean, I always enjoy it when smaller companies, and not only the big global corporates, come up with these innovative ideas and actually make a commercial success of it. So I'm going to ask you one last question, and then we've got to land this. Speaking of the commercial success, how do you work commercially? Is it and as a service kind of engagement? Clearly, it's not a once-off purchase, so it would seem like it might be quite expensive for a mine to go and buy 50, 100 screens. How do you help them to buy?
That's a tough decision we had to make when we started the business. As entrepreneurs, you're profit-driven and you want to make a lot of money. But we realized that you can't go into this market, try to make $1 million for yourself, and then after 2 years, the whole thing falls flat again. It was a need that we had to address, and it's a need that's not going to go away. So we adapted to that, to making sure that we're in for the long run. Our oldest client is Harmony Gold, and we've been with them for 12 years. The success lies in the pricing that we did. We come in very cheap, well, relatively cheap in mining, to make sure that we become part of the finisher at the mine. So when the budgets and everything is to be reviewed, that we should not be an expense where the mine have to consider cancelling the service. And we did it right from the beginning in coming with a good price, not only for the hardware as well, but for the service as well. And the value the mine gets for that makes sense. So that's why the contracts are being renewed the whole time. And that's our philosophy still, that we're in this for the long run, where we want to make a difference, especially now with a future view. I think the country needs to step up with the digital side of communication. There's still a lot of room for growth in South Africa. There's a lot of mines who doesn't have this type of system. I'm saying you should buy our system, but there's a lot of mines where there's nothing happening at the end of the day. And again, the loser in this whole equation is the employee, who is not only literally working in the dark, but physically, well, literally as well, working in the dark, and then not being able to know what's going on around him and what is going on in the operation. And it's difficult for them. It's easy for us sitting here on the surface, having access to all the stuff that we need, but the poor guy working underground, he comes at a disadvantage the whole time. That's something that I think we should change at all, not existing clients, but all the other smaller mining companies in South Africa and the world as well. There's a lot of room for improvement still to come.
Chris, it was great speaking to you. And we always end the Mine War podcast by asking our guests what they are reading. So here's the question to you. What's on your bedside table?
What I'm reading at the moment is a little book by Daniel Strauss. It's called A Billionaire's Thoughts. and teaches you basically to think out of the box. And while reading it, you soon realize why your business is not making the type of money you want it to. And that's because you've been doing things in a certain way and you're doing it wrong. So yeah, I think it's definitely something I can recommend for any business owner to start thinking out of the box, not just with the product, the service you deliver, but how you treat your employees and everything. There's always a new way in doing things, which is a better way you think you did it before.
Sounds good. So we put those books on a reading list on the website. So do go and check that out on the MindWarp page on mindrp.com. Christian, thanks so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you, and all the best with the new endeavors. And thank you for helping to make mines safer.
Excellent. Thank you for the invitation, MP. It was nice speaking to you.